Good afternoon, my Real News Media TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update for February 14, 2024. And in the news this afternoon, Collymore wipes tears as a father-in-law recalls hearing of murder. Businessman Omar Collymore, who had reportedly threatened that he was going to see his wife's family crumbled, was in tears yesterday as he watched his father crying while recalling the dreadful moment when he learned of her death. Simone Campbell Collymore, 32, was reportedly shot 21 times at the gate of her Stanley Terrace St. Andrew home on January 2, 2018. Taxi driver Winston Watson, 36, who was transporting her at the time, was also killed in the attack. The father-in-law, who described his firstborn as the consummate wife, mother, and a businesswoman, battled unsuccessfully to maintain his composure while giving his evidence in chief in the Home Circuit Court, where Collymore and his 3 co-defendants are on trial. The men, including Michael Adams, Dwayne Pink, and Shaquille Edwards, are being tried for 2 counts each of murder and a count of conspiracy. Recalling the day when he heard about his daughter's death, the father said he was at home in the afternoon when he returned 2 missed calls from Collymore, who immediately said, "Pops, where are you?" and told him to get to his home urgently. The witness said that he responded by saying, "Brethren, but me no know where you live," before rushing to the murder scene, then later at the funeral home where he saw his daughter's body on a stretcher. However, he said Collymore only told him that something had happened, and then a police officer came on the phone and told him that his daughter was shot. The father, who at this point broke down in tears, was observed clenching his fist before clutching onto the dock railing for support as he doubled over in pain. A serious-looking Collymore, who appeared to have lost the weight over the years and was sporting locks, wiped his eyes at that very moment as he watched his father-in-law testifying. Continuing his testimony, the father said that 3 months before Simone's death, he and his wife were away on vacation when another daughter told him about the threat that he would watch the family crumble. The threat, he said, caused a rift in the perfect father-son relationship that he shared with Omar. A month before his daughter's death, the witness said the entire family went to counseling, and during one of the sessions, both he and the counselor, a pastor, asked Collymore to clarify what he meant, but he refused. He also did not deny the threat. Following the sessions, the father said that Collymore later approached him, indicating that he had something to say, but when given the opportunity, he did not apologize. Asked by lead prosecutor Andrea Martin Swiby what their relationship was like then, he said the relationship had gotten strained and we weren't speaking much. But before that, he said they had the perfect relationship, which would even see them wearing each other's clothes. The court also heard that the couple had been living with Simone's parents since 2010, but that Collymore had moved out after a rift with Simone's father and his wife. She joined him shortly after. The father also told the court that the couple went on a cruise after he had returned from his vacation in September 2017. He mentioned that while his daughter worked tirelessly in the couple's 2 businesses, Collymore became wayward, devoting less time to the enterprises while spending time partying and doing other things. Earlier in the trial, his wife, whose distress was also evident and who had also broken down in tears, testified that following her daughter's death, she found 4 life insurance policies in a safe in the couple's office. She said that Simone's insurance, which had Omar and their 2 children as beneficiaries, was valued at $120 million. During cross-examination from Collymore's lawyer, Diane Jobson, the mother said there was also one for her son-in-law and the 2 children, but she did not remember looking at the value for Collymore's policy. The witness also testified that when she learned of her daughter's death, she immediately called Collymore and asked him about 4 times what happened, and he said nothing. Up to this day, he has not said anything to her, the mother said, even though she had shouted at him in anguish, saying, "You mean to take my pitney out of my house and go get her killed?" The mother also testified that it was the parents who had handled the funeral arrangements and that Collymore did not attend the service. However, when asked by Jobson if she was aware that Collymore had been shot and hospitalized 4 days earlier, she said that she had heard it on the news. Under further cross-examination, the mother said the counseling sessions were also to address the issue of infidelity in the couple's marriage, but she could not recall who was the guilty partner. The trial continues on Thursday. Justice Minister says U.S. advisory could damage Jamaica's tourism brand. Justice Minister Delroy Chuck has criticized the United States government over its travel advisory, encouraging its citizens to stay away from Jamaica due to a rise in violence. Speaking in St. James on the weekend, Minister Chuck admitted that the country's image abroad has been tainted by rampant criminal activity in pockets across the country. Jamaica welcomed more than 4 million tourists last year. But Mr. Chuck argued that the recent U.S. travel advisory could cause serious damage to the country's tourism brand, especially on the north coast, which he said is dependent on tourists for the local economy to grow and to assist in reducing poverty across the communities.
We are now being affected by what overseas, especially the American travel advisory, encouraging Americans not to come to Jamaica because Jamaica has too many murders, too much of a violent society. If I might say so, I think the advisory is overdoing it. Those who are visiting Jamaica, I'm on the Negril, right across the tourist sector, tourists have nothing to worry about. I know that the Americans must protect themselves. But I can tell you, I know these travel advisories affect us, especially on the North Coast, where we depend on visitors in the hotels for the economy to grow and for us to assist in reducing poverty right across our communities. And I can say to you, church, and to those who are listening online in the diaspora across the United States, 99% of Jamaica is extremely peaceful at this time. Yes, 1% in pockets of poverty. We have gangs fighting one another. And definitely in many homes, we have spouses, families being torn apart because they are unable to reconcile their differences. But in resolving conflicts within families, we have approximately 300 murders within families, domestic abuses, domestic killings, where parents can't get along with their children, children are killing parents, parents are killing children, brothers and sisters fighting and killing one another, families fighting over deadlift. 300 approximate murders where the victim and the offender are close family units. This is not how God meant families to grow and develop.
Hopelessness blankets dying Clarkstown despite grand promises. Once a thriving economy center, when the Long Pond Sugar Estate was the hub of the sugar production in Trelawney, Clarkstown has been in dire straits since the factory closed its doors to sugar production in 2017. However, last Saturday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness placed the town back under the radar, telling residents that plans are in train to develop the area and they would soon have their own little city. Holness, who was on a whistle-stop tour ahead of the February 26 local government elections, noted that with new hotels set to be constructed in proximity to the rural town, some 720 housing units are also poised for the area. But despite the announcement, a sense of hopelessness has blanketed the town since 2017 when it lost its lifeblood. Clarkstown has been dead for a very long time. They might as well just bury it and done, resident Claire Brown told the news on Tuesday. I honestly don't believe that Clarkstown will return to the glory days that we were used to. Former cane farmer Delroy Donor, who spoke glowingly of growing up in Clarkstown when it was alive, vibrant and filled with hope, was equally forlorn. I started out in the sugar industry as a little boy, working alongside my grandmother, who was a cane farmer. Over time, I also became a cane farmer. In those days, Clarkstown was a bustling town with a lot of business places, said Donor. Since the sugar factory closed, most of the business places have closed. Most of the people are now unemployed, albeit some of the younger folks have managed to secure jobs in the tourism sector. To be truthful, Clarkstown is a dying town. The roads are in a deplorable condition. We're having challenges with water. The community playing field is out of use, and more businesses are closing. There are no new windows of opportunities opening up for the people, continued the donor. We're a dying town, no doubt about it. While agreeing that Clarkstown is a struggling town, former sugar industry executive Granville Robinson believes it could be rebound if the major problems are addressed, making it attractive for new investment. The roads network is a disgrace. It would most certainly be a turn-off to investors. We also need to address the water situation and garbage collection, said Robinson. We also need to create job opportunities to help some of the older people who got displaced when Long Pond was closed. Many of them don't have the intellectual capacity or skills required to work in the hotel sector. However, Dunstan Harper, the Jamaica Labour Party candidate who will contest the Sherwood Content Division, which includes such areas as Sherwood Content, Duanville, Kinloss, and Clarkstown, there is sufficient reason to be optimistic. Harper, who has been representing the town in the Trelawney Municipal Corporation since 2016, says things are not as bad as being intimated, expressing confidence that better days are on the horizon. Like the Prime Minister, I believe Clarkstown is poised to become our lovely little city in short order, with a new hotel coming into the nearby Braco area, which will generate significant employment for the young people and for those persons in the construction sector. A major housing development is also on the cards for Clarkstown, he told the news. Harper said that Clarkstown has seen much progress under his leadership, especially as it relates to its water situation, garbage collection, improving the road network, and regularizing the sugarlands that were being taken over by informal settlers. While we no longer have the many jobs in sugar, the hotel sector is constantly expanding and creating employment opportunities for the young people, he said. I will admit that the water situation needs to be improved, and the road network is not as good as we would like. However, based on the plans in the pipeline, these things will be addressed in my next term. Former policeman Charles Clark, the People's National Party's candidate, set to challenge Harper on February 26, sees him as a mere dreamer who is out of touch with reality. He gave Harper a failing grade for his stewardship, adding that the incumbent is not capable of addressing the needs of Clarkstown. The situation is Clarkstown is hopeless for the young people who have had to be looking outside of the community for employment opportunities, said Wilson, who wanted to convert the older Long Pond sugar factory into an industrial zone. With a packing station to export produce, he will challenge the farmers to cultivate. When it rains in Clarkstown, you have mud coming through the pipes. The roads are a disgrace. One of the first things I plan to do is to fix what was once the road from the gate of the Long Pond factory to Duncan's, which is just craters now. No road, continued Wilson. I will be looking to address the needs of the young people in many ways. Right now, they don't even have a playing field or a community center. Turning to Holness's announcement on the weekend, Wilson dismissed them as just more promises that will remain unfulfilled. Holness broke ground for those same houses 4 years ago, and there is not a single house up there. It is just more promises because we are in an election season, said Wilson. Clarkstown is a dying town, and unless it gets proper representation, things will never get better.